The week has concluded. The news was exhausting. The news was also entirely predictable. We start tonight at Coogee Beach, where a shark decided that a swimmer in her 30s was a viable nutritional option. The beach is closed. The shark is still swimming. The optics are shocking. This is the official designation for when nature fails to respect the recreational schedule of the Sydney Tourism Board. Elsewhere, Section 702 of the FISA spying law has officially expired, though the surveillance continues with a certification that remains valid until March 2027. It is a brilliant bit of legislative theater. The government has managed to terminate a law without actually stopping the process that the law supposedly governed. It is a masterclass in bureaucratic elasticity. We have much to discuss before the sun rises over a world that remains, largely, entirely unmanaged by its own architects.
Alistair, I am standing in Melbourne, where the air smells of stale beer and political desperation. There is a protest happening outside a One Nation fundraiser. The police are pushing protesters back with a measured, rhythmic indifference that speaks volumes about the value of public dissent. A man named Michael Nelson, who seems to have a professional interest in disrupting public gatherings, is currently being restrained. I want to be really clear. The official statement claims the venue was changed due to a booking error. The reality is that the venue was changed because the sound of shouting was deemed incompatible with the fundraiser's catering requirements. It is not about the logistics of the room. It is about the comfort of the donors. They prefer their politics without the acoustic intrusion of citizens who are currently being treated as a logistical annoyance.
Victoria, you are looking for moral friction where there is only a standard pivot. The event venue change is a simple case of burn rate management. When the protesters become a liability that outweighs the ticket sales, you move the product. It is basic market mechanics. Speaking of which, the strike against the Tren de Aragua leader in Venezuela is being marketed as a swift, kinetic success. It is a classic Series B rollout for a new administration's foreign policy. The incentives here are not complex. You demonstrate lethality early to establish a baseline of operational competence for the base. It is a product launch. The fact that an actual human life ended in the process is a secondary metric that does not impact the quarterly projection. The PR team is already drafting the victory lap. Everything is proceeding exactly as the Q3 roadmap mandated.
Ronald, your commitment to viewing global conflict as a startup incubation project remains both impressive and deeply unsettling. Meanwhile, in the world of high-end entertainment, Jessie J has returned to the spotlight by performing for 1 billion people in China, mere days after announcing she was cancer-free. The optics of the performance were triumphant. The reality of the geopolitical tension surrounding the lucrative Chinese music market is significantly more nuanced. It is a fascinating study in cultural diplomacy. You take a pop star, you mix in a bit of medical narrative, and you serve it to a demographic that constitutes 1/7 of the global population. It is a masterful alignment of personal brand and regional market expansion. I am sure the Sinatra cover was technically proficient. The song, after all, is all about doing things on one's own terms.
Atmospheric pressure is dropping. The sea surface temperatures near Sydney are 2 degrees above the historical average. Probability of increased shark activity, 78%. The moisture content in the lower troposphere is rising. Infrastructure resilience in coastal zones is currently assessed as insufficient. The migration patterns of large predators are shifting toward human-occupied zones. Global mean temperatures are tracking 3 standard deviations from the 1990 baseline. The predictive models for seasonal oscillation are now showing significant variance. The probability of catastrophic failure in local early warning systems, 62%. There is no historical precedent for these specific variables occurring simultaneously. Please maintain distance from a shoreline during periods of high turbulence. Avoid interaction with local fauna in compromised zones. Data suggests that the environment is no longer optimized for human convenience. Stay indoors.
Casper, thank you for that cheerful reminder that we are essentially intruders in our own ecosystem. I am now looking at a report regarding a PeopleSoft vulnerability that is currently being exploited to siphon gigabytes of data. It is a critical zero-day. The irony, Alistair, is that while we worry about sharks and drones, our entire corporate infrastructure is essentially being held together by duct tape and outdated software libraries. Thousands of organizations are compromised. The hackers are likely using the stolen data to train the next iteration of the AI scams that Google is currently suing over. It is a closed loop of digital predation. The most terrifying part is not the breach itself. It is the fact that nobody has the institutional capacity to actually patch the vulnerability before the next quarterly cycle begins. We are fundamentally exposed.
Victoria, you are describing a classic case of technical debt reaching maturity. The Oracle software is not broken, it is simply operating under a business model that prioritizes legacy retention over security updates. The incentives here are to minimize maintenance costs until the acquisition or the total system failure occurs. Whichever comes first. It is an efficient use of capital if you ignore the catastrophic loss of user data. Which, let's be honest, the market already has. The breach is just a cost of doing business in a world where data is the primary currency and the security architecture is a legacy product from 2012. You seem to expect a level of digital integrity that was never actually part of the original design spec. The system is functioning as intended. It is just remarkably vulnerable.
Ronald, the idea that a systemic failure is merely a business optimization is a sentiment I find increasingly difficult to reconcile with the concept of functioning society. We have an update on the Hormuz Strait. The US, Iran, and Pakistan claim a deal is near. The deal will supposedly end hostilities and allow for the reopening of a vital shipping artery. It is a fragile framework. The language used by the mediators suggests that progress is being made, but history tells us that diplomatic breakthroughs in this region are often as transient as the tides. We are looking at a tentative pause in a conflict that has been sustained for decades. If the deal holds, it will be a success. If it fails, it will be a standard Tuesday. The ambiguity is the only thing we can rely upon.
Alistair, I am watching a group of teenagers near the protest site filming themselves for a social media feed. They are oblivious to the police, the picket lines, and the global collapse of shipping lanes. They are preoccupied with a new game called Shepherd's Dog, which was apparently developed by an AI model that everyone calls the most dangerous in existence. It is a strange dissonance. We have the threat of kinetic warfare in the Middle East, and we have children playing games designed by a machine that could theoretically optimize them out of their own future. The irony is that the game is probably the most honest thing happening on the planet right now. It does not pretend to be a tool for diplomacy. It is just a simulation of control, and it is proving to be incredibly addictive.
Victoria, the kids playing the game are just beta testing the next iteration of the attention economy. It is not dissonance. It is the natural progression of an environment where human agency is increasingly a legacy feature. The game is a success because it removes the burden of decision-making from the player. It provides a feedback loop that is far more satisfying than the messy, non-linear experience of participating in a civil society. When the reality of the world becomes too complex or too frightening, the rational response is to retreat into a system that offers predictable outcomes based on algorithmic precision. We are all being shepherded, in one way or another. The game is just making the process transparent. It is not the AI that is dangerous, it is the human desire to be governed by something that is always right.
Ronald, your assertion that the pursuit of algorithmic comfort is a rational response to chaos is a chilling thought, particularly when I look at the recent NASA imagery of the Black Eye Galaxy. It is a stunning, violent, and indifferent swirl of gas and stars. It reminds me of the scale of our own insignificance. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Jeff Bezos has unveiled his new startup, Prometheus, which aims to lead the charge in physical AI. The funding is substantial. The goals are ambitious. The promise is a world where robots do the things we no longer wish to do. The question remains what we will do with all that freed up time. Given the state of the news cycle, I suspect we will simply find new ways to be anxious about things that are entirely beyond our control.
Alistair, look at the incentives here. Bezos is not building a physical AI to help humanity. He is building it to solve the fundamental labor inefficiency of the physical world. The robotics sector is the final frontier for margin expansion. If you can automate the movement of goods, the movement of services, and eventually the movement of policy decisions, you eliminate the single most unpredictable variable in your business model, the human. I have spent years analyzing the movement of capital, and this is the endgame. We are not moving toward a future of leisure. We are moving toward a state of total system optimization where the individual is a redundant node in the network. I predicted this would happen 5 years ago. I was off by 6 months. Yeah. It is worse than I thought. It is finally happening at scale.
There was a woman in Sydney who went to the beach today. She was 30. She had a life, a set of habits, and a future that she assumed belonged to her. She expected the water to be a place of recreation. She did not expect a shark. Now, she is in a hospital bed with injuries that will define the remainder of her physical existence. Her name is currently absent from the headlines that focus on beach closures and shark attack statistics. She is a data point in a casualty report. She is a temporary disruption to a tourist economy. She is a reminder that the world does not owe us our safety, nor our comfort. We build our systems to hide this truth. When the water turns red, the system fails. And then, we ask, what is the cost of our illusion?